Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the West Coast Preps podcast. As you can see, it's the dynamic trio. I'm not really sure what the wording is. There's a such thing as dynamic duo. I don't know what we call it. Maybe terrific trio, I guess, of
That's
Chris,
tremendous, tremendous trio.
myself,
Yeah,
Dylan Grouse, and Jack Loader. Another week of football in the books last week. You got a couple more of the regular season, but how are you guys doing coming to this final stretch of the regular season?
Final countdown. We're starting to get to the times when matchups mean more than anything. We're starting to separate the great from the good. Starting to get to that point in the season. I'm excited.
yeah, I'm stoked. We got football coming on the stretch. A little basketball on the horizon too. So, stoked for some really, like Dylan said, some really meaningful games in the near future.
Yeah, one of those really meaningful games, Jack, you were at Friday night. I think there was a lot of people in my game asking about how that was going because of just some of the craziness you had tweeted from it. San Ramon Valley against De La Salle. Seemed like almost all the East Bay was there right outside downtown Danville. What can you say about that game and how much maybe did that live up to your expectations in the billing that was placed upon it?
Yeah, let's not beat around the bush. Let's get to the meat and potatoes this past week. And I was lucky enough to be at what's probably gonna be the game of the year in Northern California. Definitely in the Bay Area. Yeah, number two and number three facing off. We've already had number one and number two face off earlier this year, and this game blew that one out of the water. So, if you were in our post game Twitter Spaces, which we hold every Friday night on our West Coast Preps Twitter, you heard me almost breathlessly describe the pandemonium and the elite football and just the overall theater that was the end of that ball game. I'll give a little quick synopsis here. Basically, San Marin Valley was in control for a lot of the game, not out to a big lead, but holding their own. They had a 5-point lead after three, forced De La Salle turnover. De La Salle scored 20 unanswered points in about 5 game minutes to start the fourth to go up 27-12. Game looked over. And then SRV scored 15 unanswered to tie it in the last 4 minutes of the game, including an onside kick and a 2-point conversion. Then San Ramon Valley wasn't able to score on its first overtime possession. De La Salle punched it in with a run from Derek Blanche to win it in that bottom of the inning, if you will, in overtime. So it's an incredible game. On the De La Salle side, it was almost shocked relief. Talking to Allenbaugh, talking to Blanche, talking to Fave, they were just like, "Wow, like we pulled it out." That was an incredible game, and then just kind of the heartbreak on the SRV side because, ironically enough, it wasn't like SRV played a 110% game and just came up short. SRV didn't play well in a lot of pivotal moments. Luke Baker threw 2 interceptions. They fumbled in the red zone. It wasn't SRV's best game, which probably makes the result hurt a little bit more for the Wolves because they know that they lost in overtime when they didn't play up to their full potential against De La Salle. Now, De La Salle probably didn't play its best game either, but I think if we get a rematch between these two teams, it's not a foregone conclusion that was SRV's best shot and they're just going to lose by 20 next time. I think these teams are very similar. So I'm itching to see a rematch of that game. I don't know if I'll be at a rematch of that game. I'll have to lobby for that, but I think all Bay Area high school football players, spectators, fans, families should be rooting for that rematch in the NCS Division I final.
So what's San Ramon Valley going to have to do to get De La Salle back if there is a next time in late November?
Win the turnover battle. Be more careful with the ball, especially in the red zone. Luke Baker was picked off in the end zone in the first half, and Evan Economos was stripped of the ball at around the 15, so in the red zone on another possession. And who knows, it's safe to say that SRV just, butterfly effect, everything's different when different things happen. But it's safe to say SRV probably wins the game if they do that. Be sound in the kicking game. I mean, Austin Shelton, who is by all accounts an incredible kicker, had one blocked at the end of regulation and then missed one just wide right in overtime, both from a long distance, but still probably ones he wants back and kicks that he knows he can make. And then, yeah, that would probably be it because SRV played right with De La Salle and that made those mistakes and was able to. Was it Luke Baker actually probably threw three? Now that I think about it, he threw 3 interceptions and SRV fumbled once because he had an interception that was not his fault that was tipped off of a receiver's hand that went for a pick six. So yeah, just if you make that many mistakes, if you were to tell me SRV would make that many mistakes in this game, I would say De La Salle probably wins by 2 or 3 scores at least. The fact that they made those mistakes, turned the ball over 4 times, and was still able to take De La Salle to overtime shows me that they can get it done if they meet again.
Yeah, to me, this game proves the landscape has really changed because it's not like De La Salle is not running the world anymore. Obviously, we saw what happened with them and Sarah. We saw SRV, keep the game close. So I think this season is proving how wide open it really is because you're looking at SRV and how good they have been. That they are a team now that they look like a complete team and they look like a team that is on the verge of taking over as a powerhouse in the Bay Area. I know Sarah's number one, but I mean, I think SRV is a team that you could honestly make the argument and say like they are equipped to be the next, De La Salle almost. They have a lot of good players. They're well coached, and they proved in the game that they are able to hang with a big team like De La Salle, despite the fact that, like Jack said, they made a lot of mistakes. So I thought this game was a really good turning point. Not turning point, but I think this game was a really good game just to show how much the landscape has changed in the Bay Area now.
Yeah, I think it shows how much teams have caught up with De La Salle, right? And we've talked about it before. We've spoken about the rise of Sarah, what Reardon's doing, and some of these other programs, Folsom, how they've grown out here, and some of these other programs in St. Mary Stockton, right? But it's almost like just growing up. It's not like De La Salle is really any worse than they were when I was younger and in high school. It's almost like the rest of the world's caught up, and you see that the transfer portal, especially in SoCal, has made it to where Max Preps had the stat the other day where Mater Dei and Bosco, when they faced off on Friday, I think 79 Division I players on that one high school football field. Could you even imagine?
I've seen Division I football games with fewer Division I football players on the field.
Exactly. I've probably seen too many of them in my lifetime, to be honest with you. But I think it's a lot of people are starting to catch up at San Ramon Valley. Dylan, you've seen them. Jack, you've seen them. Their coaching is really strong. And then the talent coming through Danville from the youth programs, youth football, youth rugby, everything else out there coming up. It's been great there for a long time, and it only seems like it's getting better. In San Ramon Valley, I know Luke Baker, this is his last year. He's going to get another chance. He's a gamer. We've all seen him. I saw him last year go for 513 yards in one game where San Ramon Valley rallied from a 21-point deficit. San Ramon Valley is going to lose him, but the quarterback below him, Rhett Thompson's a good quarterback. You guys will see him next year. Marco Jones.
He came in for one. He came in for one play when Luke had to come out after being down, and they were checking on his leg. And the parent I was with, kind of the back of the end zone, said, "Well, Rhett's pretty good." And then he got one play through a screen pass, and then Luke came sprinting back in, so we didn't get to see much of him. But I'm sure they've got a factory line ready.
Now, Dylan, you wrote about the NCS Division I Open Division. Yep. If you haven't yet, people check it out, westcoastpreps.com. Dylan with a great story up there yesterday. How does NCS Open Division look? Are San Ramon Valley, De La Salle the clear-cut top two teams, or are there other teams in the mix?
So San Ramon Valley and SRV are the 1 and 2. I don't know the order yet. This game, De La Salle will still probably be number 1, but this game against SRV obviously proved that either team could be number 1. But behind them is Pittsburgh. I don't think people talk about Pitt enough. Marley Alcantara has done a fantastic job at quarterback, taking over for Rashada. They have not had a real drop-off with him. They're undefeated still, and they're well coached. Charlie Ramirez is a great coach over there. They have a lot of talent. So they're number 3. Another team that people need to know about is Cal High. I saw them play twice this season against James Logan, but most recently I saw them playing against Monta Vista. And if you guys did not hear about that game on our spaces, it was a great game. It was a defensive battle, but Cal High pulled out like 21-14 win, even though they didn't play the best game that they could have played. And to me, that proves how good of a team Cal High is. They have a lot of athletes. They're very well coached as well. They play a disciplined game. So they are also a good team. We have Liberty's also another team that's on there that is a very good team as well. So there's just a lot of talent in NCS Open, and I think it's why for the most part, it's a wide open contest. I mean, any of these teams can win. I think Pitt has a serious chance to really make some noise, So yeah, there's going to be a lot of good stuff happening in playoffs come, playoff time.
Cal High last year, they struggled down the stretch in EBO Mountain, but a lot of that was because their starting quarterback, Jaden Macedo, went down with injury, missed that last part of the season. Now him healthy, being back, what kind of difference has that made for the offense?
The offense is wide open. I mean, Jaden can pass the ball. They have a good running game and Devin Love. They have a lot of talent. They only have had 2 losses. One of them was to a 7-0 team down in SoCal. The other was a 3-point, very, very, very close game to Pitt, which a lot of those players really want back. I talked to a couple of them after the game, and I asked them what their hardest moment was, and they said that Pitt game. They want it back. So I think if they play Pitt, they have a chance of winning it again. But it's just a wide open offense. I mean, they throw the ball really well. They have a lot of athletes. Jaden's a dynamic quarterback. So they pretty much can run what they want, which is really helpful when you have a team that has aspirations to win a championship. So just seeing what Jaden brings to the table for Cal High, I think it's almost like the coach is like very giddy when he coaches them because he now knows he has his quarterback back. He's healthy. He can call whatever he wants. That team is rolling and they are in sync and they're going to be very dangerous come playoff time.
Right. We got Coach LeMon from Tamalpais, I think, logging on right now. He just told me. So that'll be our guest for the week, Chris. When you see him in the waiting room, check him in because he is going to be giving us some insight about the North Bay football scene and then talk about how things are shaping out right now in Marin and the North Bay as a whole.
Yeah, and before we pivot to the interview, just to mention real quick with the Open and D1 and NCS, don't forget we talk about those top 3 teams. Well, if you lose in the Open Division Championship, which is the second round, then you move down to the D1 Championship. So there's theoretically a chance where San Ramon Valley beats De La Salle in that game, and then De La moves down to D1 against Pitt. All those other scenarios, De La beats SRV, De La beats Pitt. One of those teams moves down, Pitt beats one of the other, moves down, etc. But there's a lot of different possibilities there. So if you lose to De La Salle, the Open playoffs, season's not over. You got another chance to make a run at it, and that's what happened to Pitt last year too. They lost to De La Salle, close game, 1-score game on Dublin High's field. Go to a state championship game, but now we've got the great North Bay legend Matthew Lemmon logging in right now.
I'm here. I got to be on my phone for some reason though, so hopefully this works. I don't know if you can hear me.
I'm on my phone too, so
Yes, sir, Coach. We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. How's everything going?
It's great. Just running through the school day like it's no one's business.
Coach, you guys have gotten off to a really, really great start. Surprised a lot of people. I know it's not a surprise to you or anyone in your locker room, but from an overview perspective, what's been going right for you guys this year, and it's kind of allowed you to go from a team that a lot of people saw as average coming into the year to firmly on the front half of those North Bay powers?
I mean, the biggest thing, and maybe it's a little cliche in those type of deals, but last year we were like down. We were super down, even though we probably had better athletes across the board and all these guys kind of still existed. And I probably had more talented offensive linemen, right? Bigger guys, faster guys, stronger guys. And we didn't do that well because we weren't as connected and such. And I think a lot of these younger cats that saw it realized like, oh, it's not just about being more athletic, but actually all working together on the same page. And so having that like weird down year when it looked like we were supposed to be really good, I think helped. And I think obviously the biggest thing is when you have a quarterback. I mean, the kid, we could basically talk to each other without speaking at this rate, right? Like I could throw plays at him with hand signs and he'll basically know what I'm thinking. And half the time he like fixes it in the middle of me doing it. He looks at me and he goes, "You mean left?" And I'm like, "You're right. I do mean left." Right. So that makes it really easy now that, we're aptly comfortable with each other and those types of things.
Braden's got the craziest stats I think you see. I know we've seen him a lot of times in games, right? But you see the stats, and I think it says it alone: 73% completion percentage, 28 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's a ratio you don't see at any level pretty much ever. So what the heck has been working so well for that kid, and how much has he grown from that first year as a starter to where he's at now as a senior?
I think, it goes back to the same thing as he also realized last year, and he got hurt halfway through. So he spent more time just like sitting with me and like walking through what we're doing in practice, which helped with some of his processing stuff. Because I think coming as a sophomore, right, like figuring out how to play, gets hurt, and you like kind of get used to the speed. Junior year is a little quicker with it. and then just kind of learning all the stuff we're doing and why we're doing certain things. Like we had a 40-minute conversation yesterday before practice about why you want to try to throw it deep on 2nd and 2, right? Like he's just trying to learn football stuff rather than just that. So it kind of helps his processing. And so that I think has made him a way more efficient almost, right? And then as he'll tell you and I'll tell you, right, having offensive linemen that all like each other and also know what we're doing makes it a little easier to actually do those things, right? And before that MC game, like quite literally, I think his average time to throw the ball was like 5 seconds, which is insane, right? And he doesn't need all of them. And then just occasionally I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, he still has the ball and no one's in there yet, right? So I think that helps. And just, I mean, we have athletes all over the place. So when you get it to Lachlan, Archie, Lachlan had 4 receptions for 4 touchdowns, right? Like when you can do that, it makes you look a lot more efficient too. And so I think just all being on the same page and him kind of processing stuff a lot quicker than he was before has made it into what it is now.
All right. I know you guys are pretty goal oriented. Talk about you've talked about the ceiling you think this team has. You're 5-2 right now. Both your losses have come to teams that are currently undefeated and lost Lomas and MC and ranked. How close are you to kind of taking that step to get up nearer to those guys than you kind of are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is if you look at even both those games, I know you guys were at the MC game, right? It's really just a couple things here and there, right? It's not like we got out there and got out physical. I mean, Charles is him. So like that dude touches the ball and it's easy, right? So that's a whole defensive thing we got to work on, right? But especially like offensively, is it like, dropping a couple of quick slants that also could have went for touchdowns rather than just the one we had. Los Lomas is just like missing a couple blocks when we're trying to run the ball, right? So it's just the tiniest little tweaks turn it from losing those games to being closer, or in Los Lomas' case, winning. And I think this week gives us a good test of that going into San Marin, right? It's like when the pressure's on, those tiny mistakes that you can make maybe against teams that are a little less athletic than you, can you turn them all the way up and make those mistakes corrections when it comes time with a team that's just as athletic as you or more, right? And so I think that's kind of what we're looking at going into it.
What have you seen from San Marin on film?
I mean, I my analytics on our film stuff is I don't think they've trailed ever, right? Like I don't think there's been a game where they're like actually trailing. And so just from that alone, right? I think their defense is pretty good, especially early. And their offense is juggernaut. That kid Dom is real. Wesley and Matt and all those kids, like I know when we played 7-on-7 against them a bunch of times. They're legit, right? And so they got just as much talent as we have, and they're kind of all over the place. And their defense has some great linebackers that fly around and hit stuff, right? And Gordon and Bainey, right? So they're running around. So I think it's if you can get them to kind of play, I can get my kids to kind of play up to that level of intensity, I think it'll be really fun, right? And I think just taking advantage of the things that are there and maybe catch them being over aggressive here and there.
Dylan, you got anything?
Yeah, you guys are in a tough league this year, and you guys obviously know you guys have a talented team. What was the mindset going into the season, knowing that you guys were in for a challenge against San Marin and all those teams? Like, what has been a common theme that you guys have preached this entire season?
Yeah, so our two things all season has been trusting each other, right? Like trust is about you and us, right? The you and the us in the middle of trust has kind of been our whole thing, right? If I can trust you to do your job, then I can trust us to get it done, right? And then the throwback, I think Mike Leach's whole thing is the ships sink because of the water outside of them that gets in, not the water that's inside of them, right? So we got to block out all the noise that we're hearing outside, right? And just run with the people we got in the boat. And so we've been looking at some of these big games all along, right? Like they were all fired up for MC, and now they're all fired up for this, right? And so I think the biggest thing is if we go out there and trust that each one of those guys is going to do their job, and the kids believe that, right? Like the coaches right now, we're all like, yep, my guys are going to do my piece. My guys are going to do my piece. But we got to get a lot of those kids to get on that same piece, and they have been all year. but all it takes is one little falter in it, and that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we've kind of been hammering on the last couple of weeks is just trusting each other and tighten those bolts and get ready to rock and roll.
There you go.
Coach, lastly, because I know you got a quick window here, we appreciate you coming on. You guys take things week by week, but as November nears here, I know you're thinking about the playoff landscape and you're standing in that NCSD 3. What are you looking for in the playoffs, and how important is it for the continued growth of your program to get that home playoff game and win one or two?
I mean, the home playoff game is nice. I've had one here a couple of times, right? And how it all shakes out is irrelevant. But I think between me, the other coaches, and the kids, we're not worried about all that. We're worried about two real easy things, and I'm not scared to say it out in public and those things, right? Is we're trying to go on that revenge tour. So if you give us a 5 and get us Las Lomas early, we'll take that one, and then we get to play MC again and play that game, right? We'd rather play it that way than any other way, right? Don't make us wait to take the games that we want. You know what I mean? That's what we're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Coach. Appreciate your time.
You guys.
Yes, Coach, really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'll catch you.
Hey, good luck this week, Coach. Hey, always great stuff from LeMon, man. He is energetic, and you see why those players rally around him right there and why he's built up Tamalpais football. I think the first time I spoke with him, he said they used to be maybe 100, 200 people at games back in the day. Now it's –
Dude, I can tell you firsthand there were not that many.
It's a much different vibe there. I've been on there in some Saturday afternoon games where that student section is booming, and it's hard to you got to park a little bit further away than you probably used to, and you got to park at Safeway or elsewhere because it's a different atmosphere there than it used to be, and those students are fun. I'll
be there Saturday, and it should be a great atmosphere for San Marin. There's not a whole lot of seating at TAN. It's about a 5-row bleachers stretching from 30 to 30, so not a whole lot of seating, but they pack it in. Absolutely just par for the course, him saying that he'd love to play Las Lomas and then MC right off the bat. Just avenge any loss he possibly can. And when you thought, I picked Tam to beat MC, partially because I'm an alum and it runs in my blood, even though I am objective media now. But I didn't necessarily believe they were going to beat MC. I thought they had a shot, a low percentage shot. But LeMon and that entire locker, they genuinely thought they were going to win that game. And, you could say, oh, that's delusional, but it's more realistic than it has been in past years. And two, that just speaks to the mentality that he's kind of ingrained there. And they definitely think they're going to beat San Marin. They're heavy underdogs this week against San Marin. Chris, I'm not sure if you made a line for that game. You did, but we'll hit on that in a few minutes then. But they believe they are going to win, and there's almost no doubt in their mind. They know they can lose, and they know they have to play a good game to win. But even if the three of us probably pick San Marin to win the ball game, which I actually picked San Marin I picked against Tam for the first time this entire season because I have some clawing back to do in the standings, but I digress. But the belief that LeMon has in that locker room is something that hasn't been seen at Tam in decades.
Well, that's how
I think it helps.
You're not going to win anything by thinking you're not going to win going into a game, right? And he's changed that. They're tougher, and he's right. Charles Williams is him. There's not been a single team that's found a way to stop Charles Williams, and I'm not sure there will be the rest of this year.
Yeah, I think it helps too when you have a coach that really believes in the kids. Like everything he was saying, it sounded like, it doesn't matter what the outsiders are saying. As long as you believe in that locker room that you have what it takes to win, and in your heart, and like with what you have been around, that you have a team that's built to be a champion, you can really beat anybody. I think what this season's proved and what I really enjoyed is that anything can happen. Like obviously we saw going back to the De La Salle SRV game. I think we were talking about it last podcast. We didn't, none of us thought that game was going to be what it was. SRV could have won and they didn't play great, right? So it's one of those things where anything can happen. So I think that with, the mentality that Tam has is exactly the one that you should have going into a game like San Marin against a defending champion, right? You go in there, you know that you're not expected to win. No one's going to pick, for you to win, but you go balls to the wall and you just play as hard as you can. And then, if you believe that you can do it, you are setting yourself up to potentially pull off an upset.
Yes, sir. Let's move along.
Yeah, and the next one, it goes right into the North Bay Collision courses. Jack's written about it. If you haven't seen it, westcoastpreps.com wrote about it earlier this week. You got some big ones coming up. These next few weeks are going to say it all. Maybe Tamalpais actually has a say in it, because a couple of years ago, Tamalpais, I was there Saturday afternoon, was up on San Marin for a while. But then now Fresno State running back Justin Gwynn kind of went crazy the outside run that second half. San Marin wins. Go on to win its first of 2 straight state titles. But how's that North Bay setup looking? And are those collision courses, Windsor, Newman, Marin Catholic, San Marin, written in stone yet, or can something change?
Well, I mean, no matter what happens, those are still going to be the premier games. But you're right. There's one more little bump in the road for each of Marin Catholic and San Marin before they face off, and what we presume to be undefeated on that, what I've deemed Big Marin Saturday, taking it from Fox on their big noon Saturday in college football, because we'll have San Marin and Marin Catholic 2:00 at Marin Catholic on Saturday, November 4th, and Tam versus Redwood, which will be the 3 and 4 teams in MCAL who are bitter rivals facing off at Tam at the same exact time. I've said before, I wish I could be in 2 places at one time. But yeah, Dominic Damari, as Sam Marin has said before, they match up really well against Redwood. We saw them handle Redwood very easily a couple weeks ago, and Tam plays them a lot harder. It's just a different matchup, and San Marin usually has a little bit of trouble with Tam. So that game this weekend's at Tam. It's going to be a great atmosphere. And San Marin's going to have to bring their game. They're not going to be able to play really poorly and win. So I think they know that. I think they're also cherishing the opportunity, because when you play in Marin County, there's way too many sleep weeks, if you will. So I think San Marin and Damari definitely appreciates the chance to be challenged. But if San Marin plays their best, they will win, and they will win pretty convincingly. So that Saturday afternoon, a couple weeks from now, on the first weekend of November, the final weekend of the regular season, is going to be awesome, because we have San Marin and MC, who will likely both be 9-0. It'll be MC being challenged for really the first time. Maybe Redwood gives them a little bit of a shot, but I think Redwood's best case is having a similar result as Tam, which is a 20-point loss. And then up further north on Friday, November 3rd, the night before a game I'll be at, is Windsor versus Cardinal Newman, who have kind of been on a collision course since the last few weeks when Windsor started to get really hot, and we understood that the loss to Escalon and the infamous tie at Camp Lindo is less like the current Windsor that we've been seeing. And then Cardinal Newman has just been a machine pounding through their schedule. So that game on that Friday night, I believe it's at Cardinal Newman. Windsor Cardinal Newman will be the game of the week in the North Bay, the game of the Friday night in the North Bay, and the game of the week in Sonoma County. So we're in for a treat on that final weekend. You can check out more in detail what I wrote about the 2 collision courses, and then another baby collision course we're seeing in Southern Marin that will be taking place that weekend.
And who are some teams
games happening up there?
Yeah, who are some teams that are being kind of overlooked still, maybe in the Bay Area? Some teams that are kind of flying under the radar that we gotta give more love to going into these last few weeks.
I'd start with someone who is beginning to crawl out just by virtue of their record of the overlooked spot, and that's Las Lomas. 7-0. They have some really good wins. They beat Tamalpais. We heard Coach LeMon talk about that game. It was a 27-26 overtime win for Las Lomas. So by the skin of their teeth, they remain undefeated, and they have been just keeping the momentum going. So that team is one that can't be overlooked, and one that I kind of expect to keep climbing our rankings and having a really nice playoff standing in that NCS Division III landscape. So that they're my don't overlook them. It seems kind of silly to say don't sleep on a team that's undefeated, but Las Lomas was getting a little bit slept on in the middle part of the season, and now as we head into the latter portion, I think we can't afford to do that.
Yeah, I think Las Lomas is the type of team too that they play Campo on Friday. That game has the potential to be. I'm not saying Acalanes is out, obviously, but that has the potential to be a league championship, because Las Lomas this season they have a sophomore quarterback in Dylan Thomas who's been pairing it up. They have just a young team, but this is probably one of their best teams in years, I want to say. So that has the potential to be a league championship, in the sense where if Las Lomas is able to pull it out, then I think the conversation might change in that who is going to win that league, how is playoffs going to shape out. So I'm excited to see how they're going to do. And yeah, I think Las Lomas right now is one of the most under the radar teams that we've kind of seen so far over these last couple weeks.
It seems like we're going to learn a ton about that league these next few weeks because there's also Miramonte, Acalanes, and Miramonte. You could say you can't. It's hard to say teams that are undefeated, even some one-loss teams, are they being overlooked? But in these cases, Miramonte and Los Lomos probably fit that bill. And Miramonte facing Acalanes, Los Lomos versus Camplona. This is where we're really going to learn, where we've mentioned before, pretenders and contenders. And let me list a few more from Northern California. Menlo, I think, undefeated, just won an unbeaten battle over Hillsdale. We had boots on the ground there last week. Menlo staying unbeaten again. 2 years ago, went undefeated in the regular season. Last year, went to a NorCal championship game. Having a great season there. Their coaching staff's got that thing rolling. Young quarterback there that everybody's really kind of liking his chances and his potential. And it sounds cliche, but sky's probably the limit with him. And now, against the spread, Dylan, last week you actually bested Jack, who was more of the esteemed sports bettor like myself. You were 4-3 last week. Jack 2-5. Now, Jack, you've slid down to exactly 500 this year, 24-24. Dylan, you are 19-29 overall this year.
Yeah, I'm not the best sports bettor, so it's okay. We're getting back. Last week was a good starting point. I'm ready to build off of that. So we'll see what happens now.
Yeah, building up one step at a time, right? 1 week, one play at a time, and Dylan might
baby steps.
Yep, baby steps. Now the first one, can Cal make another baby step up the ladder, or will San Ramon Valley prove that it's the team to beat in that league? Cal at home against San Ramon Valley, SRV 6-1, the only loss overtime to De La Salle. Cal, mentioned earlier, 5-2, two great losses. The line, San Ramon Valley, though on the road, favored by a little less than a touchdown at -6.5.
Yeah, De La Salle, I think, or not De La Salle, sorry. San Ramon Valley, I think will cover that spread. I mean, Cal High's a great team, but Cal High, San Ramon Valley, obviously, we know is a better team right now. Not to say that both teams, this game could go either way, but SRV has just been, they're going to be angry coming off of a really close loss to De La Salle. They're not going to want to lose again. SRV is going to come out, they're going to come out hard. I think they're going to cover that spread.
I think SRV covers as well. They are coming off this loss. It's an emotional loss. You know, some people might say it's an emotional letdown, but what I saw on Friday night, I think SRV and De La Salle are a cut above the rest of that Ebell Mountain. So I expect SRV to play with a passion ignited by the fact that they were so close to beating De La Salle and wanting to validate that standing.
The next one out in the North Bay, we'll have boots on the ground for this, is Casa Grande against American Canyon in a huge Vine Valley Athletic League tilt. Before the season, probably most of us didn't think it would be one to pencil on the calendars, but now it is. Credit to American Canyon for what they've done, their new head coach has done to get that thing back up. They beat Vintage earlier this season, a game that Jack was at. They've beaten Foothill. Now they're 5-3 overall, 3-1 in the VVAL. And Casa Grande won 6 in a row since that 2-score loss to Cardinal Newman. They beat Vintage by 6 last week. This game in Petaluma, Casa Grande -3.5.
Yeah, I'd say Casa covers. Because as good of a team as American Canyon is, if you haven't seen our stars and studs on westcoastpreps.com, go check it out. We put 2 running backs from American Canyon on that list because actually they had 3 running backs that went for over 100 yards last week. So their running game is incredible. But Casa Grande is Casa Grande. They are on a hot streak. They're playing really well. It's not, I don't believe it's Petaluma. Casa Grande's home, right? You said?
It's at Casa, yeah.
Yes.
Is that Casa? Yeah. So I think the home field advantage is going to also be a factor as well. So, yeah, I think Casa is going to cover the spread in this game.
I have Casa here. I'm pulling up my notes on American Canyon. I have Casa covering too because I think as exciting and explosive as American Canyon can be, I think they're still a little bit volatile. And we saw that they had a surprising loss to a Petaluma team earlier this season after they beat Vintage that were kind of handled by Petaluma. So I think they're still learning how to win consistently and how to hold themselves as a favorite, right? This is a school that hasn't had a lot of experience with expectations in the recent past. So I think there's still a little bit involved. I think that gets exposed this week. And then they'll finish up with a couple wins. I think no matter the result this week, there's a really good chance that American Canyon sees this as a pretty successful season in Trevor Hudson's first year at the helm. But Casa Grande's really good, and they're putting together a really nice campaign. And I don't think they're going to put that on the line this week.
And let's go elsewhere to the North Bay. We just had the head coach on earlier. Tamalpais against San Marin. Last time it was at Tam, it was a really close game before San Marin had a big second half. Went on to win that state title. San Marin, though, was kind of a heavy favorite in this game. -9.5 on the road on a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Coach LeMon. Really am, but I have to go with San Marin on this one. We've seen time and time again this season that San Marin is still San Marin. They're coming off a state championship, and they look like they could win another state championship this year. Dominic Ingracia is absolutely incredible. Wesley Timmel, the receiver, is he's incredible too. So they have a really good team. They're built to win. They've been there before, so they have that experience. As good of a team as Tam's been this year, I think San Marin has been known to expose a lot of teams, as we saw with Redwood game this year. So I'm going to take San Marin to cover the spread on this one.
I picked San Marin to win, but I'm going to pick Tam to cover. So I think San Marin wins a close one by one score, and Tam covers that +9.5.
So how many yards does Dominic Ingracia throw for, and how many does Braden Young throw for?
They both are over 300, and I think Dom throws for 365. Braden throws for 340. 3 touchdowns each. It's going to be an awesome game.
It's going to be a quarterback fest. It may be one of the better quarterback fests that we've seen all season. So that should be fun.
Now let's move it on out to the East Bay. Again, there's some huge tilts in the East Bay this week, both in the East Bay Athletic League, both divisions of the East Bay Athletic League, I should say, and also the Diablo Athletic League. Now to Clayton Valley Charter against Monte Vista. Monte Vista coming off a 1-score loss. Now Monte Vista, they do win. They pretty much secure a playoff berth at this point if they do win this game, and they would still be in the league title consideration just because of tiebreakers, and they would still have San Ramon Valley remaining on the schedule. But Monte Vista 4-3 overall, Clayton Valley 3-4. But mind you, against an absolutely brutal schedule with Oak Ridge, Jesuit, some other high-flying teams. Clayton Valley, the 3-time defending league champion at home, favored in a very close matchup at -2.5.
Jack, you want to take this one to start?
I'll take him covering the -2.5. I think. Wait, which side is minus?
Clayton
Valley's favored.
Clayton Valley's minus. Okay, that's what I thought. I think this is a game where Clayton Valley turns things around in terms of their kind of perception in this league and this Bay Area landscape. Because, like you mentioned, Chris, I think the key thing here is that strength of schedule. They've played a lot of dogs, and I think Monte Vista's been a little bit overrated this year. So I think Clayton Valley wins a close one by a score, by 6 or 7. They cover.
Yeah, I'd say Clayton Valley covers because they are. I mean, Monte Vista is a good team, but let's not forget they're a season removed from going 2-8. I mean, Johnny Millard is a great coach, don't get me wrong, but they're still at the level where they're trying to figure stuff out as a program. Clayton Valley, I think, has more of that continuity there a little bit, and they also have a lot of size and speed and athleticism. Not to say that Monte Vista doesn't, but I think Clayton Valley's experience is gonna show in this game, and I think they're gonna cover.
The other side of the East Bay Athletic League in the Valley Division, it's a facto league championship here. Granada quarterback Quinn Boyd against a former Granada quarterback in Tristan Tia, who moved to Amador Valley, now eligible this offseason. This game in Livermore, Granada 6-2 overall, 2-0 in the EBL Valley. The losses, non-league games to Monte Vista and Cal. Amador Valley's 5-2 undefeated in league play, with the losses to Foothill in a rivalry game to El Cerrito. But they've beaten Camp Londo, they've beaten Monte Vista, and the last 2 games outscored Doherty Valley and Livermore by a combined 112-7. Of note, last year Amador won this game 39-13. Granada's last win over Amador Valley was 2018, and Granada has 4 wins over Amador Valley since 2004. So Amador Valley going on the road down Stanley Boulevard into Livermore, out to Wall Street. Amador Valley -8.5.
Yeah, Amador Valley's.
Give me Granada to cover and to win the ball game. I think this is Quinn Boyd's massive coming out party. This is a team that can score the best one. I think this game, despite Amador's defense being Dylan, stop looking at me like that. But wipe that look off your face, because I think Granada hosts. It's at Granada, right?
Yes, it's at Granada.
Yeah, you're gonna have the Granada fans behind him. I think Quinn Boyd has a crazy good game. Finds his brother, Christian Klauser, Peyton Richards, all those guys that are such playmakers on offense. I think they win this game. I think it's 42-36. Granada gets the win, easily covers the +8, and gets the money line victory as well.
So I'm gonna have to go with Amador on this one. I've seen them play twice. I hope I'm not bad luck, because both games I was at were the games that they lost. But
you on this again?
Huh?
Are you going to be there Friday?
No, I'm not going to this game. But Amador's defense is probably the best, other than El Cerrito. Them two are the best defenses I've seen all season. And Tristan Tia's addition to the offense is only going to open that offense up even more. They were good before with Aiden at quarterback. With Tristan, it's going to be a whole new level. You got him, you got Goldsworthy carrying the ball. They're a very well-coached team. Their defense is full of dogs. I just don't see – I feel like Amador Valley has a new sense of energy now with Tristan at quarterback. I don't see them losing this game. I think they're going to cover the spread, win the game.
Dylan's feeling good about that. Jack's feeling good about his pick.
Who's going to that game, Chris?
I believe Greg will be at that game.
Okay.
Hopefully, maybe Greg won't be the luck that I've been for Amador this year. I don't think Danny enjoys seeing me anymore at this point.
Yeah, you've seen Amador twice, and they've lost both times. Granted, both close games.
Yeah, that's why I don't think Danny likes seeing me there anymore. He's
yeah,
like, oh,
so
lose every time.
I don't think they'll be mad that you're not there at this one. But now let's have a little fun with the quarterback playing this one too. High flying attacks. Jack, you're money with this kind of stuff. The yardage totals, those prop bets. How many yards does Quinn Boyd have? How many yards does Tristan Tia have?
Quinn Boyd throws for 317, 2 touchdowns. He also rushes for a touchdown. And Christian Klauser adds 2 on the ground to make up 5 touchdowns for Granada, who gets to 42 with a couple field goals as well, and maybe a 2-point conversion if my math is right there.
No, what about Tristan? How many yards is Tristan Tia going for?
I know less about Amador, and does that play into my confidence in Granada? Perhaps, but let's say Tristan goes for 290, 3 tuds, and I think maybe Amador scores a defensive touchdown. There's a mistake on the Granada side, and Amador scores a defensive touchdown that makes this a real close game.
That could definitely happen too, for sure. I've seen that happen a couple times already.
Now to the Diablo Athletic League. Los Lomas undefeated against Camp Lindo, who's 5-1-1, but Camp Lindo typically the class of this league on the road. Camp Lindo's favored at -6.5.
Oh, this one's actually kind of tough. The reason why I say that is because you cannot really bet against Kevin Macy. It's so hard to do that. I played for the guy. Trust me, I know. But at the same time, this Los Lomas team is no joke. Like, these guys they're hungry, they're young, they're motivated, they're just everything you want in a football team, and they're at home this week. You know what? Give me Los Lomas to cover the spread and win this game. It's going to be an upset. I think Los Lomas is going to come out. They're going to come out hungry and firing. They're going to know what's up, and they're going to win the game. They're going to steal it.
I just finished saying we shouldn't sleep on Los Lomas, and I still think that's the case. But I think Camp Lindo is a little too good in this one, and this is a got to take your lumps before the playoffs loss for Los Lomas. I think Camp Lindo wins and covers the spread. It's going to be a 10-point win for the Cougs in Walnut Creek.
Also going off in Orinda is Miramonte hosting Acalanes. Last year, Acalanes won this game 53-28, and that's when Miramonte had UCLA quarterback Luke Duncan on the roster. Miramonte, though, 6-0, outscoring opponents 219-64. Acalanes is winners of 4 straight, 4-3 overall. And granted, you mentioned that strength of schedule. Who are Acalanes' losses to? San Marin, San Ramon Valley, Amador Valley. So Acalanes, the high-flying attack, multiple D1 receivers, favored by 2 scores at -13.5.
Yeah, that game's I think Akalani is going to cover that. I mean, Miramani's a good team, but like you said before, I was going to bring this up too. But strength of schedule is a big thing. I mean, Akalani's is 4-3, but like you said, they've lost to really good teams. You got to take those 3 losses with the big grain of salt. So, I mean, Akalani's is just they've proven time and time and again that they're just a really well built team. They got 2 receivers that are basically hard to cover. So, give me Akalani's in this game to cover the spread.
Is Miramani's schedule just been super like Mickey Mouse?
Well, let's go pull it up right now for you, Jack. Let's go see. I know their strength of schedule. There's not a whole lot that are obviously tougher than Akalani's.
Let's see.
But Miramonte thus far, they did beat Berkeley. They beat Berkeley week 1.
I remember that.
Actually held Berkeley to 12 points in that game. They crushed Pinole Valley 59-0. Pinole Valley was a defending state champion at its level as well. So they beat
Northgate by 1 point, 28-27.
Yep, tough win there too. So
and then they beat College Park and Benicia after that, leading up to this game. So
yeah, Northgate
play well.
Northgate had an awful year. College Park, Benicia are not quality wins. I'm just trying to see how they got to the 6-0. You know what I mean? Like, and why we haven't heard much about that. I think they cover this. I think Akalani's wins, but I think Miramani keeps it close. It's a local game. It's in that La Miranda triangle. So I think they keep it close and cover, but Akalani's wins.
In the last game we got out to the West Catholic Athletic League is always a great matchup. It's St. Francis against Valley Christian. St. Francis 4-3, 3-1 in the WCAL. Their losses: De La Salle, Sarah, and Helix down from SoCal. Valley Christians 5-2 and 2-2 in the WCAL. They had a close 1-point loss at St. Ignatius last week, where SI scored in the final minute to win that game. Last couple of years, St. Francis has won this matchup last year by 7 points, and that's when Valley only won 1 game in the season. The fall of 2021, St. Francis won by 14. Tough game, though. In Mountain View, St. Francis, the spread at -4.5 in favor of the Lancers.
Give me the Lancers to cover and win comfortably. 2 scores. I think we get Francis this week.
Yeah, St. Francis. I saw them play against De La Salle. That was a very good game. They're a good team. They're a very good team. They're a well-coached team. They know what they're doing. Both of them do. But again, strength of schedule. Helix is a great team. De La Salle is a great team. So I'm going to say, give me the Lancers to cover and win.
Chris, if I picked Valley Christian in the picks I texted to you, change it.
I will right now. Let me go check it. Let's go find this out live on the air.
I'm trying to think. I think I might have picked Valley Christian, and I'm thinking about the matchup a little more critically now, and I want to pick St. Francis. Valley Christian's coming off a tough loss, which they gave up 15 unanswered to SI in the 4th, and I think St. Francis takes advantage of that.
You had Valley Christian originally.
The people don't need to.
We should add a segment called Over Under on how many thank you jacks we're going to get after each game now.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Disrespect.
Hey, you know what? That means people are watching what Jack says, though.
There you go. That means we're getting views.
Longer.
We're getting the views, baby.
Now, we got the vaunted segment. Going to throw right at you guys again before we go. Hot takes of the week.
I got to let mine cook for a second.
Dylan never thinks about him before. He just lets him rip off cuff.
I have to. That's why they're called hot takes.
My hot take, I talked about it in the spread section. I think Granada is going to beat Amador Valley, and I think it's going to be relatively comfortable because of the huge offensive day that these Granada Matadors are going to have. And I think if this is a game where there's close to 80 combined points. I've been high on Granada. I know they haven't yet shown up in against a truly elite opponent. I think that changes this week. Granada is going to beat Amador Valley, and it's going to be relatively convincing.
Well, so this hot take I have is a mix between this week and kind of cumulative as well. But Los Lomas is going to win this week, and it's going to spark a league championship run. They're going to win this week against Campo. They're going to get to that point where they see what they are, and then they're going to win the league, I think. This team, like we've been saying, is really slept on. They're a really good team. These guys have the potential to really make some noise. I believe this is Los Lomas' year to change the landscape of that league. Can they win the league? I think they can. we'll see what
So
happens.
they're going to beat Camp Leno, and they're also going to beat Acalanes, is what you're saying.
I think they're going to beat Campo, and I think they're going to be on such a high that they're going to end up beating Acalanes and winning the league. I truly believe that they can. They're undefeated up to this point. They've had a good schedule. Why not?
Hey, Dylan, what was your hot take last week? Was it
It was,
Valley wins
I
by
don't. Yeah. We don't have to revisit. I said San Ramon.
No, Dylan, not a bad hot take.
Yeah.
If San Ramon Valley plays a good game,
There was actually no. I was talking. I think I was texting either Jack or the group chat about this. I remember saying when the game was going on, I'm like, my take isn't looking so bad. Unfortunately, I was wrong, but I did predict for those of you guys that watched last week. I said San Ramon was going to win that game by 2 scores. Clearly, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, but it was a lot more of a game than I thought it was going to be. So there you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, gang. Good.
Yeah, that's all we've got, everybody. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the West Coast Preps podcast. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, go to westcoastpreps.com for all the coverage, and subscribe. And if you don't have a subscription, you want to read some free content for the next week, just put in the code WCP 7 days, and we've got you for this weekend's big slate of games in Sacramento and the Bay Area. And also be sure to tune into our Twitter space on Friday night. And if you missed that, I'll be sure that's recorded and that'll be posted on the weekend as well. But everybody take care and stay safe and enjoy another beautiful fall weekend in Northern California.